together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions once again. His third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Happy Monday to all of you who are tuning into the show, streaming wherever you are watching. Starting first and foremost, today is Veterans Day, and certainly we salute all the veterans out there here at SportsGrid. On behalf of SportsGrid, NewsWire, and all of our shows, certainly we salute you on this very important day. We also salute some college and pro football. We'll review all the games that happen in the National Football League. We got Adam Caplan, our SportsGrid insider, on the show. Also, Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News, and our very own Joe Raineri to break it all down for you. Not to mention the very latest in the National Basketball Association and a bit of news from Major League Baseball as well. In case you missed it last night in the NFL, it is the team that keeps on winning, but they didn't cover. They finally did not cover last night. Wow, the Detroit Lions came all the way back up against the Houston Texans in a game they were trailing basically from second one to the end of the game until they kicked the field goal. The Lions win 26-23 on a wild night for them in particular because Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions in this game. And this is the most efficient quarterback in the National Football League all season. So needless to say, Detroit just looks like one of those teams of destiny, especially after Houston put up a tremendous fight in this one from start to finish. A very happy Jared Goff after this one, and arguably his worst game as a pro.
Honestly, didn't feel like I was playing all that bad, and I was seeing things well. I was throwing it well. Had some unfortunate things there early, but like I've been through a whole lot worse than that. I've been to the bottom, and mentally I've been to the bottom, and some unlucky plays isn't going to throw me off my game. Yeah, it's a battle. It's hard. I mean, again, I just said it to Eric, but I didn't feel like I was playing all that bad. I was seeing things well. The tip ball, like, yeah, ultimately I got to take care of the ball. But they were making some good plays and some things that weren't going our way. And I think ultimately, like, I never lost confidence because I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do on most of those plays. And our defense really bailed us out. They really did all day. And the guys stuck with me on offense, and I was telling them, "Hey, man, I'm good. Just hang in there, and I'm good. I'm gonna have this thing figured out." And they stuck with me.
Definitely a different Goff with Detroit than was with Los Angeles, to say the very least. Meanwhile, the Texans got to be reeling. I mean, they dominated this game for 3 quarters. It looked like they had it in the bag until Detroit rallied late. D'Amico Ryans, head coach of the Texans, not exactly thrilled with the outcome.
The second half was not good enough for us. We didn't play winning football. We stalled on a lot of drives. Again, didn't score any points in the second half. So, to beat a good football team like that, we have to be able to sustain drives. We have to be able to score points. And we were going backwards way too much. And the approach each week is to go win the game, no matter how it looks. We don't set out to win an ugly game, but in this league, every game comes down to, you call that final possession. So you have to find a way to gut those out and win. We haven't been on the winning side, of those games as, Green Bay, New York, and now Detroit. So we didn't make the plays to win the game. However you win, you got to find a way. And to win games, you got to have guys have to step up and make plays, and that's not happening.
Certainly a different season for the Texans than they had last year, still with hopes to make the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Chiefs haven't lost a game in just about a year. It appeared as though that was going to come to an end yesterday. All the Broncos had to do was kick a short field goal to beat Kansas City. Instead, it was blocked. And the Chiefs win 16-14. Boy, if you bet underdogs yesterday, you had a nice day. Chiefs were 7.5-point favorites, 8 in some spots, but of course Denver covers, almost won. Total was 41.5 in the game, and the crowd was going bananas at the end. Andy Reid had thanks to them.
I'd like to thank the fans for the support. They stayed, and got a great show by that our special teams put on there at the end. Up to that point, I thought, my hat goes off to Denver for the job that they did. I thought defensively, offensively, they were strong. And, it ended up being one of those kind of games, back and forth. And, they arguably take it down for the winning kick. And then Leo steps up and does what Leo does every week. Somewhere he makes a play. Defensively, special teams. Somewhere he steps up and makes a play, and he did a great job.
Chiefs and Bills next. That should be the game of the year in the NFL. All right, yesterday, the San Francisco 49ers got their kicker back, Jake Moody, nearly cost them the game. They did end up winning this one by a final of 23-20. Moody missed 3 field goals. Christian McCaffrey did return to the 49ers, had a really good game for them as well. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, the Steelers just somehow find a win in so many different games. You could say that about the Commanders. The Commanders came up just short. They lose to the Steelers 28-27. Russell Wilson got the Commanders to go off sides before punting, which really just ended the game. And how about Kyler Murray and the Cardinals? Somehow they were an underdog in this game against the Jets. Didn't appear to be at all. They crushed the Jets yesterday, 31-6, total of 46.5. Jets season pretty much done. Arizona's still alive, though, very much for the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Colts have to think about their quarterback situation. Second straight week of playing Joe Flacco has not worked out. The Buffalo Bills, they end up taking care of business. They were 3.5-point favorites. They win 30-20. Let's just be honest. They've been the best team in the NFL the last couple of months, not named the Chiefs. 30-20 final. They're 8-2 on the season. Chargers win again. They beat the Titans 27-17, covering that number. Jalen Hurts, 4 touchdown passes as the Eagles destroy the Cowboys 34-6. Cooper Rush had a bunch of problems in this game. Also, very tough to see the ball at AT&T Stadium. This is a hot topic yesterday after the game. It looked like a pass was thrown by Rush to CeeDee Lamb in the end zone, and Lamb couldn't see it because the sun was just coming in, as you can see there in that little clip. And it seems like this happens a lot at the stadium here. Jerry Jones, even after the game, basically said that everybody knows what the situation is. We'll get to him in a minute, but first let's start with CeeDee Lamb on those circumstances.
Couldn't see the ball at all. The sun. But
you in favor of cones?
Yes, 1,000%.
You talked to Jerry about that.
Well, Jerry Jones loves the way the stadium must look on television because he could cover that thing up. There would be no sun going into the stadium. Jones was asked specifically if it bothers him at all, the fact that players can't see. He said, well, let's tear the stadium down and build another one. Are you kidding me? Everyone's got the same thing. Every team that comes in here has the same issues. I'm saying the world knows where the sun is. You get to know a year in advance. Someone asked me about the sun. What about the moon? Tough season for Jerry Jones. We really have to watch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Is that true this year? At least we get Detroit. All right. How about against the, oh my God, that's a bad game. All right. How about the New England Patriots having a better season than everyone thought? I think most people thought New England would be like 1-16, 2-15. I mean, they won again on Sunday. They went to Chicago and won. The Bears offense has been dreadful. Bears were 6.5-point favorites. Yes, another big underdog won outright on Sunday. It has been a rough season for the Bears offense. Caleb Williams certainly has been taking the brunt of that.
I think us as an offense, we do have to find it right now here in this instance, just because we're getting close to, and it starts this week, playing versus teams like Green Bay and Detroit and Vikings and all of that. But obviously you have to take it one step at a time, and but right now is right now. We took this loss. We have to learn from it. We have this little bit of time tonight and tomorrow, and then from there we're on to Green Bay, and we got to find ways to do it. Simple as that.
All right. I woke up early. I did watch that game in Germany. At least it was exciting at the end. Giants and Panthers right down to the finish. Panthers kick a field goal. Giants probably going to make a quarterback change, I would guess. How about the coaching bump? The firing of Dennis Allen, the hiring of Rizzi, and the Saints beat the Falcons as an underdog. And also the Vikings kicked 4 field goals. They beat the Jaguars 12-7 was the final there. In case you missed some Saturday college football, Alabama all over LSU on Saturday night, and Mississippi State beat Georgia. Those were the 2 big games in baseball. The Marlins hired Clayton McCullough as their manager. Be right back.
Your main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6'8". Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top.
Oh! Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to come over that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round 1 halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work!
Look at that positioning, that's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the bottom throw. Oh, he's out! He's out!
Big trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou is back!
I like to think I'm dedicated to my craft here at SportsGrid. I know when football is on Saturday and Sunday, that as best I can, I got to get a grip on these games, watch the big ones as much as possible. So Sunday morning, I actually watched most of the first game, all the way through the ones, most of the way through the fours. The fours were horrible. And then halfway through Sunday, actually, I think 3/4 through Sunday Night Football, Vinnie Iyer, I'm sure, was doing the same thing. Vinnie, I cut the cord on Sunday Night Football before the fourth quarter. So naturally, the first thing I do in the morning is walk the dog, open up, see what happened, and go, oh my gosh, the Lions came back and won this thing. I'm giving full transparency, Vinny. I don't know. I mean, that's dedication. I mean, 9 a.m. all the way through 11 p.m. I cannot give you much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions saved their best for last, and they are working like the Chiefs right now, right? Just finding ways to win, special teams, however ugly it looks with Jared Goff. I mean, this is a reminder that the Lions are a complete team. I know there was a lot of Jared Goff MVP talk, but when he has 5 interceptions, the team can still rally and win. This shows the team is well coached. They stuck with running the ball to get back into the game with Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. That worked. They were just a well-coached team, and all their guys executed well down the stretch despite all their mistakes. And I think a big up goes to their defense, right, to keep them in the game late. I mean, the defense looked like it was lost early, but then they got the turnovers. They made the stops. So you credit their defense. So I think what we're learning is the Lions are a lot more than just their explosive offense, and that told America quite a bit about that in that victory.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very honest. I like Washington. I still think Washington is my team. I know no one agrees with me. But if it's not them and it is Detroit, San Francisco in the end, I guess, Vinny, that's really going to be the big question is can Detroit win that one big game to get to the Super Bowl? I don't see a ton of contenders in the NFC. It feels like it's 2 or 3 teams. The Lions, by the way, first team since 1970 to come back and win a game after being down 15 and throwing 5 interceptions. So I guess I slept, and I guess it's okay because I didn't know that stat going in, but that was fine. All right, speaking of the 49ers, they have not played their best football all season long. I'm assuming at some point they will. I got to tell you, Vinny, I did watch this game, again, very closely. I mean, they missed some kicks. I definitely think that was part of the equation. The Buccaneers, I mean, Baker Mayfield played really great late. But to me, Vinny, it really is about Christian McCaffrey. Like, him catching those balls out of the backfield is not what Jordan Mason can do. I think we underestimated that. And as long as McCaffrey is healthy, I got to put them close or right at the top in the NFC. I understand they didn't cover the spread, but I do think San Francisco is going to go on a little bit of a run here to get themselves to a 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah, and their offense, they had 30-yard plays from all the receivers they involved. I mean, 30-plus yards from all those guys. So this is what happens. When McCaffrey's in there, it opens up the rest of the offense. Brandon Ayuk is not in there, but they seem just fine. With Jawan Jennings, the rookie first-rounder, Ricky Pearsall looked fantastic. So we know they still have George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. Basically, they only involved 5 players in the passing game and the offense in general, and it didn't matter. That's all they needed. And then the one thing you'd think about is the 49ers, their offense has to be better this season because their defense is not as good. I mean, they let the Buccaneers kind of move down the field, got their running backs going also, that the 49ers used to just take away the run. So they're going to have to score a lot of points if they're going to win the NFC or even get to the championship game because, again, their defense is not something they can rely on week in and week out.
Yeah, and in the South, I think it's a little bit different. We saw Atlanta lose yesterday. We saw Tampa Bay lose yesterday. Their win total right now 8.5 and 3-1 to make the playoffs. And look, I know, Vinny, that most people believe Atlanta is the best team in the division. You know what I would ask you, Vinny, is that are you positive that if Atlanta needed to win the last game of the season as a 2 or 3 point favorite, I'm not positive that they would win to get in if they needed that. They're a really hard team to figure out for me.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is they're probably in a bit of cruise control right now. They have a 2-game lead in the division. They have beat the Bucs twice. They're still 4-1 in the division, despite losing to the Saints. So all that stuff that you look at here is just they're probably in cruise control, much like the Texans, right? There's no competition.
Yeah.
So they might not be motivated for a while, knowing that they're going to fall back on the 4th seed and get a home game no matter what, and they're not going to go up and get a bye no matter what. So these teams are just not going to be all that reliable or competitive week in and week out, knowing that they're probably stuck where they are in the end no matter what happens.
Yeah, it feels like one of my fantasy teams. I'm kind of in and just waiting to get to the playoffs. All right, so that's not the case for the Dolphins, who are on the road tonight taking on the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams clearly playing better football, but again, anything can happen in any game in the NFL. Look, we saw Miami almost go to Buffalo and win. In fact, the Dolphins probably played better against the Bills than anybody has in the last couple of months. Rams 2.5-point favorites, total of 48.5 in this game. Miami doesn't play D. The Rams barely play D, so I would expect a high-scoring game most likely. But is this a spot for Miami to bounce back after Buffalo, or you think that their ship has sailed a little bit here, Vinny, going into this one?
Well, this is an opportunity, like if they can save their season, I don't think they have a shot at the playoffs, but if they, in their heads, they might think this is the way to save their season. I mean, if you think about how much we've dumped on the Jets, I mean, we should dump a little bit more on the Dolphins. They weren't able to kind of survive the Tua Tagovailoa absence. Now Tyreek Hill is questionable game time decision for tonight, so something we're going to track there. But the Rams defense, they're doing what they did last year. They're getting better down the stretch. Slow start with their offense. They got their wide receivers healthy. So we've seen this before, just last year with Sean McVay. I think you're seeing this Rams defense get better. They probably have the defensive rookie of the year in Jared Verse up there in the pass rush. So these young Rams who are maybe struggling early in the season come together defensively. And we know McVay, when he has all his guys offensively, they're hard to beat. And that's the type of Rams team you're getting. So this could be a really tough spot for the Dolphins. They got to come all the way out here, then go back out there and play the Raiders, who are going to travel far to see them. So I think when you look at it, the Rams have an edge here in this game because of the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I do have the Rams tonight for big pool money tonight. First time. I haven't won all season long. I do need the Rams tonight. So my Dolphin friends are not going to like me that much. Vinny, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Craig.
All right, we'll see what happens in that game on Monday Night Football. Meanwhile, what's going on with the LSU Tigers? Are they on the far outside looking in at the college football playoff? We'll discuss that next.
Your main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6'8". Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
That lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top.
Oh! Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to Kimura that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work!
Look at that positioning, that's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the bottom from. Oh, he's out! He's out!
He's in big trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou is back!
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We dive into the latest in college football. One team trending up, Colorado Buffaloes. One team trending down, LSU Tigers. In the NFL, one team trending up also. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's dive into them all. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Well, having a live Tiger on the field at LSU didn't exactly work out. Boy, Alabama, I was getting ready for that game, getting ready to watch, sitting down, put the TV on, 7-0 before I knew it, 14, I think it was 14-0 or 21. I mean, this game was over before it started. At LSU, Alabama looks like the team to beat right now, I got to say, in the SEC. That's no solace for Brian Kelly, who was supremely disappointed with the loss, and certainly disappointed that the game was no fun from start to finish.
Well, I'll begin by saying, what we thought would be an exciting evening turned out to be a disappointing evening. I told my team I was, certainly excited, coming into the game about their preparation and the way that they thought about this game, what they needed to do physically, mentally, all the things that we talk about. I was excited about their preparation. They were ready to play. I take ownership in not getting our guys in the right position tonight, and we just did not make the best of the opportunities that we had. And then certainly a lot of things didn't go the right way tonight with not being able to get off the field on third down, turning the ball over on offense. And it just seemed there were at times some key things in the game that didn't go our way.
Yeah, I would say so. The game was a blowout. I mean, there's nothing else to talk about. LSU must win out every game rest of the season in order to get into the college football playoff. Meanwhile, same could be said for the Colorado Buffaloes, although we didn't think that several weeks ago. The Buffs are right in this thing. Like, in fact, if they win out, they're going to be one of the top 12 teams in college football come the end of December. Fair enough. Let's hear from Coach Prime, who says he's just looking at this day to day, not like we are at the playoff.
Every game is that, isn't it? But I don't think we don't change with the stakes. You guys change with the stakes. We don't change with the stakes. Like what we're doing right now, we planned on it. We didn't plan on losing 2 games. We didn't plan on those things. We planned on winning, and we plan on winning each week. We're not looking for the down the street or down the road to the championship, because if we look that far, we'll never reach our destination of preparing tomorrow, practicing. If I decide to practice, depending on how this plane ride is going to be. Is it snowing back in Boulder still? Is good? It's beautiful? It's good. So we can practice tomorrow. It's good. So I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them, but our expectations are truly our expectations.
Right now, the Buffs are in the inside looking out, but again, big games coming up for them as well, including their conference championship. Meanwhile, got to give credit to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Man, I was one of those people that thought it was a bad move to go to Russell Wilson. Got to trust Tomlin. Always a winner in the NFL. Needless to say, at the end of that game, coming up big, Mike Williams scoring a touchdown for them. They beat the Washington Commanders and honestly outcoached them at the end of the game. Tomlin talked about the big win.
I've been trying to tell you guys all year that they make the plays when called upon. And, that's just a mindset and idea. Their efforts make it real. And so keep watching.
Like you mentioned that this is a team that had never been stopped on fourth down. That was a critical stop for you guys late in the game.
Big time, But we did a lot today that, they weren't accustomed to. They had only had 13 3-and-outs through 9 football games. That was an agenda of ours. 47% of their drives reached the red zone. That was an agenda of ours. They're a dangerous group. They're a hot group. But we want to be the firemen. We want to put that stuff out. It was enough for us to win today. And we'll get back in the lab because we got a real hot opponent next week. And so we'll see.
Mike, in that same thought process, the guy you prepared for today at quarterback has done a lot of great things this year. The guy you're preparing for next week has done a lot of great things. Is there any similarities or differences?
Man, be real slow comparing people to Lamar Jackson. That's a multi-time MVP. That's Mr. Jackson. We'll see Mr. Jackson in a few days.
They did a really nice job against Jaden Daniels. Will they do the same against Jackson? And can the Steelers win the division? Joe Raineri from SportsGrid talks about that next.
Your main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
With that lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top.
Oh! Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to get more of that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work! Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that position. That's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the throw. Oh, he's out! He's out!
He's in big trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou is back!
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We reeled in Joe Raineri here in South Florida to come on the show here today. Joe's going to have a busy day ahead of him, breaking down everything that happened in football on Sunday, maybe a little preview of Monday Night Football. What's going on, Joe? Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. How are you?
Absolute pleasure to be here, as always, Craig, the morning after, as they say, on what was a very head-scratching week number 10 in the NFL, to say the least.
Yeah, dogs. That's what you needed yesterday in football to make your money. Speaking of which, we'll start off with a dog. And, you know, honestly, this could have went either way in the end, but I mean, this line was right between Pittsburgh and Washington. A very competitive game, back and forth. I mean, I obviously come out of this one, Joe, giving all the credit to the Steelers for pulling off the win and out coaching the Commanders right there at the end, because we never know. I mean, Daniels is throwing a bomb for a touchdown at the end of a game. Maybe he does something like that again and they kick a field goal, but the guy went off sides when all they needed to do was stand pat there. Pittsburgh picks up the win. Is this a contender in the AFC? I mean, Joe, I feel like it's very hard for me to look at them and say, yes, they can beat the Chiefs on the road. Yes, they can beat the Bills on the road, but I do have them right there after that. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, both of these teams, I think, are contenders in their respective conferences, right? I mean, there's no reason to look at anything that Washington did and say, oh, they're a fraud. There's no way there is a. This is a legit team who, by the way, defensively turned the ball, got Russell Wilson to turn the ball over, twice in the fourth quarter. The defense almost willed them to a win in this game here, but a couple of more breaks went towards the Steelers' way. I really thought the over was a good play in this game yesterday, and the first half proved that right, because Pittsburgh had not really taken on a quality offense yet this year. This was going to be the best and biggest test for this defense, and I think the defense, after giving up a few points in the first half, I think they settled down. And man, these are two playoff football teams. I don't care what anybody says. It would not shock me to see the Commanders and the Steelers not only in the playoffs, but causing some damage.
Yeah, again, I've been saying I fully believe especially in the NFC, that the Commanders can get all the way to the end here. I do. I think they can. They may not look as good as Detroit or San Francisco or some of the others or Green Bay, but I believe they'll be there. Pittsburgh, for me, I don't see a lot that I love here as far as their futures odds. Joe, maybe you could tell me. I mean, their win total seems about right. I suppose maybe the most interested one I would be in is that plus 220 because, again, if you take them to win the AFC, I'm always looking ahead. If it's Pittsburgh at Buffalo, there's no hedging, there's no money line hedging. Yeah. I mean, Pittsburgh is going to be 6-point underdogs or 5-point underdogs at Buffalo or at Kansas City. So there's not a ton of value there for me, and I don't see them winning the Super Bowl. But I would say maybe winning the North. They're going to get Baltimore twice. That's when we'll know.
Yeah, listen, they have the teams that they're going to need to beat in front of them if they are and I think a couple of things here with Pittsburgh we always need to keep into consideration. There is literally no place they can travel to if they don't get home field advantage in January that's going to scare them. They are built for cold weather. They're built for playoff football. I love what they've done by Arthur Smith. I was a little hesitant to back anything he was going to do with the Pittsburgh team based upon what we got out of him in Atlanta, but he's actually made this a very balanced offense. He can stretch the field with Pickens and now Mike Williams. The running game is much better because of it. They're a dangerous team in December and January, especially with that defense traveling.
Would agree. Hey, Mike Williams. I remember he was on another team.
Yeah, don't say it
this year.
Thanks.
I don't remember.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, so the Chiefs do what they do, which is take us right down to the wire and somehow find a way to win. They get a blocked field goal late in this one. So credit to Denver for keeping the game close, but the Chiefs haven't lost in a year, almost coming on a year. But are we going to do it? Is this week, not we meaning Buffalo, I don't mean that, but are we going to look at this game coming up? It is the game of the year in the NFL and say this is the week that the Chiefs go down to the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the Bills have played much better than the Chiefs for the majority of the season, but that doesn't seem to matter when these two teams match up. Joe, the Bills have dominated the regular season appearances against Kansas City.
Well, that's the whole thing, isn't it, right? I first of all, let me just say, I'd much rather be lucky than good. And you take that as you want, Kansas City. But, the bottom line is you haven't lost a game yet, although none of it has been awfully impressive. But, a win is a win. But to your point, coming up here next week, Buffalo always seems to win the regular season battles. It's the playoffs that they have problems in. They're dropping 30 points or more on teams like it's a given right now. So the offense is playing well, although that was some ugliness in that game against Indy yesterday. I still think there are some holes on this Buffalo team that, given the right team to go up against, will expose them. But I'm not sure currently the way Kansas City is playing that they're going to be able to do that. Not to mention, the game is going to mean much more to Buffalo than it's going to be to Kansas City. But Kansas City right now, whatever mojo or sage they're burning, whatever's happening there, my fear is that is all going to come crashing and revert to the median here. You cannot win every one-score game in an NFL season. At some point, we both know, Craig, that's going to go back. That's going to revert. And they are not going to get all the breaks and a blocked field goal as time expires for the win. Some of those things are going to come back to haunt them. The question is, will it be in the playoffs or will it be starting next week in Orchard Park?
Yeah, I think, Joe, the Miami Hurricanes found that out this week, as you know.
Yes.
That's a great example of exactly what you're saying. Okay, somehow after winning one game this season in convincing fashion, the Jets were favored on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know. That was a weird one, to say the least. And from the second the game began, you felt like if you took the Cardinals, you were going to win. I mean, the Jets were really not competitive in this game. A lot of mistakes. A lot of the focus has been on the Jets, but I think we should focus on the Cardinals here, Joe, because the Jets season is over. But the Cardinals are 6-4 and ahead of the 49ers. And ahead of the Rams, although, again, the Cardinals haven't had a bye, so that will change. Seattle is still right there. What do you make of Arizona? It feels like some games they don't score at all. And then some games they put up 30. So I'm not really sure what to make of them and how far they can go.
Well, they're one of these teams that the eye test tells us they've been getting better and better each week. I mean, listen, we know Kyler Murray and what he is capable of. He was phenomenal yesterday, almost perfect throwing the ball. I think he completed nearly 92% of his passes, 266. He had a touchdown. He had a couple of rushing touchdowns. He is a menace when he's got some weapons. And McBride is turning out to be one of the best tight ends. Marvin Harrison Jr. is always a threat. Connor runs like a tank. So they have all the pieces. The biggest question with Arizona was always going to be defensively. That's a very young defense. Would they be able to figure it out to keep them in enough games? And the answer so far is, yeah, they're getting better and better. I mean, listen, say what you want about the Jets. That's a lot of weapons. And they stifled every one of those weapons on the Jets yesterday. Pretty impressed with what we're getting from Arizona.
Yeah, a lot of weapons, Joe. It's like going to weapons with plastic forks. That's what it felt like with the Jets. No offense yesterday to your Jets.
Yeah.
Not knives,
Terrible.
plastic forks. Any position tonight on Monday Night Football? Rams, Dolphins, Rams up to 2.5-point favorites. Tyreek Hill a little banged up, maybe. Tua, who really knows in this one? I'm guessing they're both going to play, though. What do you make of this one?
I think they're both going to play, and I don't think we're going to sniff 48.5 points, to be completely honest with you. Neither is fully healthy there. Question marks across the board. But Miami, you want to talk about do or die. They need to show signs of life, but I have my doubts. I like the under, though, in this game.
All right, under 48.5 from Joe Raineri. Thanks again, Joe, for coming on.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Go Jets.
Adam Caplan. Up next.
Your main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
With that lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top.
Oh! Off balanced him a little bit. Takedown. Brandon Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to get more of that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has of getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round one halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work! Francis Ngannou wailing away.
Look how heavy he is on the hips. Look at that position. That's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the throw. Oh, he's out! He's out!
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Adam Caplan, our SportsGrid insider, here on the show, and we'll break down some of the games that we haven't touched on yet on the show. Great to have Adam back. And, Adam, I got to tell you, sometimes I when I watch games, I think the announcers they're getting paid and they're building up games, and but the atmosphere did look really cool in Germany. I got to tell you, the fans singing throughout the game. It was a fun watch. I know the game stunk, but it was a really fun watch to see. And it doesn't surprise me to see the commissioner talk about bringing more games there. I thought it was really entertaining, and congrats to the crowd there. They did a great job.
Yeah, Craig, it's going to happen. They're going to have more games in Munich. There's no question about it. And just covering the league and you're talking to people in the league office over the years, I'm not saying this will ever happen in our lifetime. I just remember, this is going back probably 10 years ago, someone in the league office told me that. He said in our lifetimes that we would have a team overseas playing. I'm like, you mean every week? And he nodded. I go, there's not going to happen. Logistically, I don't think that would ever happen, but they get such great crowds. Think about it. You got two of the NFL's worst teams, right, playing each other. Had this game been here in the States, you got ticket brokers day off, right? No, not overseas. They go out of their minds. I wonder, Craig, could they even name any of the players? That's the other thing. And the funny thing is they're wearing jerseys of guys that retired. I love it. I mean,
right,
it's
I saw
great.
that. Yeah.
And the funny thing is the game actually, the Giants came back late to push it to overtime. But yeah, look, internationally, there's no question that the league loves it and the crowd gets into it. Yeah, you're right. It was pretty interesting to see the juice that the players had. They kind of fed off of it, and you saw it late in that game.
Yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed the game. Unfortunately, for the Giants, they lose yet again. Just a tough offensive performance. The Panthers. Look, say what you want about them. Chuba Hubbard's been good for them, but beyond that, not much else. And honestly, in the end, if Tracy doesn't fumble, maybe the Giants end up winning. But it certainly seems as though, Adam, based on watching some of that press conference from Brian Daboll after, that Drew Lock is going to take over when they get done from the bye. I don't know if that's the case for sure, Adam, but I'm guessing that's what's happening here.
Here's what's going to happen, and it's all contract related. At this point, they are tied with the Jaguars for the worst record in the National Football League at 2-8. This is not about evaluating Drew Lock who's a backup or Tommy DeVito who's the third quarterback. They've done that before. They don't need to do that. It's protecting themselves. So what happens, and you know this going through baseball. So looking at Jones's contract, anyone who's looked at his contract, I've known this now for a year, didn't know when this would happen, but we're now there, as you just brought up, and I'll explain where they're at. So he's got 2 years left on his deal after this season. He's got a $30 million base salary, Daniel Jones does, next year. $23 million of it is guaranteed for injury. They're not going to be on the hook for that. So what they're going to do is, if it's not this week, it's going to come soon because they're out of the playoff race. They have no chance to get in. They're going to protect themselves and bench him, just like last year the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. Right. And a few years before that with Derek Carr. And I've seen this throughout my 27-year career. And it gets ugly sometimes. And last year, the way the Broncos handled it with Russell Wilson, it was ugly. The word got out. Russell went public with it and admitted that he was asked to redo his deal and he wasn't going to do it. And good for him. He's ended up in a good spot with Pittsburgh. But look, the unfortunate part about it is the Giants season is done and they don't have a younger quarterback to take a look at. Yeah, it'll be Drew Lock, obviously, but he's a backup quarterback. The league knows that. You and I were just talking off camera about the problem that the league has developing backups. The only thing they can get out of that is hopefully Drew Lock will play well enough to bring him back next season. But look, Daniel Jones' career, it didn't work out. I'm told he's very close to ownership, particularly John Mara. This will be tough for John, but you know what? They're going to want to protect themselves. And Joe Shane, who by the way, that was his first year's GM when they did this deal 2 years ago, 4 years, $160 million. It's going to go up in smoke.
Yeah, and look, Daniel Jones will be fine. He can play as a backup in the NFL for years and years. Reminds me of like Trubisky, that kind of guy. Like he'll hang around, he'll be with the team, he'll get another shot at some point else. All right, let's go to arguably the team that's playing the best football over the past month. That's the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. They just come out every game pretty much on fire offensively. I know they had that little hiccup, Adam, last week against the Dolphins, and the game was close. But probably shouldn't have been. There were some bad calls in that game. This week against Indianapolis looks closer in the score than it was really on paper because they scored a late touchdown just to push the game over the total. But honestly, the Colts were not on the same field as the Buffalo Bills. I know we're going to be talking a ton, and you'll be talking a ton about the game of the year this week against the Kansas City Chiefs. That will be a blast. But is any team playing better than Buffalo over the past month in the NFL, Adam? I'll start.
Yeah, they're playing really, really smart football, other than yesterday with the turnovers. But Josh Allen and Joe Brady, the marriage between the offense coordinator and quarterback, that's been great. They've had some injuries on defense. They've overcome that. They're not really talented at a corner. They've overcome that. A really good coaching by Sean McDermott. And James Cook has turned out to be a really quality running back. Not quite as good as his brother, Dalvin, when Dalvin was great. But they're hanging in there. Now, I do want to mention this for Bills fans. Yes, it's looked great. They've had a good schedule. The 2 games they've played against really good teams, the Ravens and Texans, they lost. Let's not forget about that before we crown them. But they've been a good story. They're clearly better than a lot of us thought. I'll admit that. They've surpassed it. Mike Carver's loving this. They've been a great story, but they got to win in the playoffs. And this is a game we cannot wait for, quarterback versus quarterback, 2 of the best in the National Football League. There's no question about it. But I do want to mention, though, this is where the schedule gets harder. You mentioned Kansas City. Then they got their bye. Then they're home against the Niners and at the Rams and at the Lions. That's when, Craig, you're really going to know how elite they are.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, Chargers are going to make the playoffs. They win again against the Titans. They're starting to score a little bit more, and I think Chargers fans will be happy to see that. Adam, it seems to me like this is the kind of team that's going to win 10 games. They're going to get in. You're going to flip a coin in the playoffs, and they may win that first one. They may lose that first one, and then they get knocked out. I mean, that's kind of the way that I see them. But great job by Harbaugh, without a doubt.
He is unbelievable. I was able to spend a couple of days with the Chargers in training camp at their new complex. I was stunned, to be honest with you. I looked at this roster, and I go, wow, how are they doing this? Justin Herbert's playing better. He's gotten over his minor injuries last year, or excuse me, earlier this season and last year. They're running the ball well. Gus Edwards came off IR yesterday, did a great job. Their defense has been better than expected. Really good staff he's put around them. But I agree with you. They're not that talented, and they're not going to go far in the playoffs. But great story. They've surpassed everything that we thought, no doubt.
All right, thanks, Adam. See you next week.
Got it. Okay.
Your main event, tail of the tape for Battle of the Giants. Francis Ngannou, 38 years of age. Reina Ferreira is 34. Francis standing 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's usually the bigger man, but tonight he'll face a man who is 6 foot 8. Reina weighed in heavier, has the longer reach on arms and legs. Francis Ngannou in the gold and black. Reina Ferreira in the gray.
With that lead hand, he's got to be cautious because that right hand is coming over the top.
Oh! Off balanced him a little bit. Take down the head right there. Randy Couture told you to watch for the wrestling. Who lands the takedowns? Good level change from Francis. Well timed. Drives through. Now on top.
My goodness. How are you going to Kimura that? Oh!
Triangle attempt here.
Francis needs to rip out of that right now. The longer he stays, the more chance he has getting caught.
Wrist again, trying to stifle the punching attack of Ngannou.
Round 1 halfway gone. Now the far side underhook for Reina Ferreira. See if he can build himself up. Easier said than done. From underneath somebody like Francis Ngannou, who punches from the top. Nasty work!
Look at that position, that's beautiful work. Henry's going to have to work tremendously hard to get Ngannou off him so he can get back. And he is unleashing the from. Oh, he's out! He's out! He's in trouble! And he's down! And he is done! The king has returned! Francis Ngannou is back!
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It's time for us to dive into the latest in the National Football League. We'll talk a little Saints football, a former member of the Patriots and Buccaneers, and also what do the Giants do going forward. Time now for some last licks. All right, we'll start off with the New Orleans Saints. Yes, the Saints get the victory. Did you watch fantasy sports today by chance on Saturday? I host a fantasy show here on this channel. Give out 0 picks the whole entire season. None. Not one single pick have I ever said anything. Ended the show with my only pick of the season. First pick ever. It was taking the Saints. Why? Coach got fired. Happens all the time in sports. You got to back the fired coach. In this case, back the Saints. How about Darren Rizzi? Picks up a win in his first game ever as a head coach. Rizzi was a coach in Miami too. Always liked this guy. So congrats to him. He picks up the win. But his post-game press conference was even better than the win. It turns out he had a little plumbing issue before the game and told reporters about it afterward.
No, man, I'm a pretty open guy. So this is how my day started. I get down here to the stadium, I get down here to Superdome. I go in the head coach's locker room, which, I've never used before, right? So here I am early in the morning. I go to the bathroom, and this is how my day started. I clogged the toilet. And I'm like, this is going to be a crappy day, pun intended. And so listen, I'm like, okay, this is not really a great start to the day. Here we go. And so, I'm not really feeling like a head coach of an NFL team right now. So I'm like, really? This is really how we're going to start my day? So, listen, there was moments during the game. I'm so wrapped up in my routine. There was moments today where like I'm almost forgetting. I'm just going through my routine, and I'm kind of forgetting that I'm the head coach a couple times. All true.
Good for Rizzi. Good for the Saints. Saints have had a brutal season, and who's rooting against that? They lost 7 games in a row before beating the Falcons this week, and it just does go to show you that there are human beings playing sports, and when human beings have themselves questioned, maybe they put a little bit more effort in, because there's no question the Saints put more effort in this week than they have in at least 2 months. All right, putting effort into a Sunday, an average Sunday for Rob Gronkowski, I guess, is doing something that is thrill-seeking. Gronk never afraid to do that. As it turns out on Sunday, Gronk decided it was time to jump out of a plane. Or was it, Frank, a helicopter? I think it was a helicopter, it looks like there, wasn't it? Yeah, helicopter. There it is. So Rob Gronkowski, on his average Sunday, doesn't go up against NFL linebackers anymore. What he decides to do is jump out of a helicopter into the ocean. All right, so this is what it just shows you that these players, especially in the NFL, are still thrill-seeking after all these years. Like it's not enough to just retire. Gronk did retire, a fairly young guy, and this is what he gets his kicks for. Fair enough. Hey, guess who's at it again? It's a company on social media that is having fun with sports. It's Lasix. Lasix is having fun with referees. They're now having fun with Daniel Jones at his expense, unfortunately. On Sunday, they went on social media and posted that maybe Danny Dimes needs a Lasix appointment. I mean, look, I get it. They're trying to be funny. I think the joke has run its course here with a lot of these guys in football, baseball. We've seen it. I get it. Daniel Jones, he can't play. I mean, he's not going to be a starter anymore, and I get it. But, I mean, the guy has a family. In the end, the guy has a family. I would fully expect, by the way, that Drew Lock is going to get the call. But maybe should the Giants turn the ball, the quarterback position over to Tommy Cutlets? Remember that guy? Remember Tommy? Was it last year that Tommy DeVito played and won like 3 games or something like that? It was just last year. It feels like forever ago. So the backup is Lock. Third string is DeVito. Giants are off this week, so no Lasix needed for any of their quarterbacks. Thanks again to all of our guest contributors here on the show. Today, they were Joe Raineri, of course, from SportsGrid, Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News, and our SportsGrid insider, Adam Caplan. Also want to thank our director, Luke, always in the house, and our producer, Frank. You can catch the early line. It is coming up next around noon Eastern, which is 50 seconds from now, followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast, and then we get you ready for Monday Night Football with Pro Football Today, in-game live, and Pro Football Today post-game. Our next edition of NewsWire is tomorrow morning, Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern. I hope to see you there. And once again, happy Veterans Day. We honor all of our veterans here in the United States of America. Have a great day, everyone.